Hello viewers, welcome to my orchid world. In this video today, we will be mounting an orchid on a tree. As I have always said, mounting an orchid on a tree is the best option to grow orchids. This is the best method to grow orchids. We will basically be looking at 5 points. Number one is the preliminary steps that we need to take before mounting an orchid on a tree, the type of tree that we need to choose to mount an orchid, thirdly what type of materials we are going to use to mount the orchid, and fourthly the actual process of mounting the orchid, fifth the steps that we need to take after mounting the orchid on the tree. So let us look at the points one by one. Firstly, the steps that we need to follow before mounting an orchid is to allow the orchid to grow roots beforehand. As we all know that the orchids that are mounted on the trees use their roots to attach to the tree, so it will be a bit easier for us, a bit useful for us to allow the orchid to grow roots first. To do this, you can just place the orchid on a wet medium which will evaporate water continuously, which will provide the necessary humidity to grow the roots. You can use some sphagnum moss, or you can use brick pieces, or you can use bark pieces. Just make the orchid sit on a wet medium, or wet medium in the sense just a moist area from where water will get continuously evaporated, which will help the orchid to grow new roots. As you can see, this is the new root that has grown. It was sitting on a mixture of bark pieces, charcoal pieces, and beneath the pot I had placed another pot without holes where I had kept water, and the water was vaporizing and providing the necessary humidity to grow the roots. And in case of kikis, where the kikis grow on the mother plant, this is absolutely the step is not required, because they will definitely grow roots and kikis on their own. Second step is to choose a tree where you will mount the orchid. We need to choose a tree which has hardwood and which is which has a long lifespan, like big trees like the jackfruit tree, a mango tree will also do the purpose. Over here in my place, people usually mount their orchids on betel nut trees. Trees like the banana plant or the tree is not very suitable to mount orchids, because the outer layer keeps on shedding from time to time. Trees which have a good leaf system, good large canopies where the orchid can get shade from the sun, from direct sun, is very needed, because if the tree is quite big, quite bushy canopy system is there, it will provide the necessary humidity to the orchid. The betel nut tree has this rings on its stem, which are quite rough, and ridges are there. In the mango tree also, if you have observed, there are quite ridges on the outer surface of the stem. The bark is quite rough, where it is very suitable to mount an orchid. The roots of the orchid usually try to find places where it will get a good attachment for the roots. In my front yard, I have a neem tree where I have mounted several orchids. I have my Aerides odorata, I have the Cymbidium aloifolium, the Terret vanda, and few other orchids. The surface of the bark of the neem tree is also quite rough, and there is a good leaf system which provides shade from the sun. So basically, any tree which has good canopy system, good leaf system, large, quite large, which can provide shade, which can act as a barrier for the direct sunlight, will be suitable for mounting an orchid. The tree should have a long lifespan, because any tree which say dies off very soon, doesn't have a very long lifespan, is not very suitable. Trees which have a smooth surface of the bark are not very suitable, because what happens is the bark, the roots may not attach to the bark. To mount an orchid, the items that we will need is any mesh like this. You will easily find this kind of mesh in your home. Any old sock which is a bit flexible, which you can cut in half and longitudinally, is also suitable. This is the Rhynchostylis retusa which we will be mounting today. We will need a piece of thread. Cut the thread a bit long, because our tree is a hardwood tree, which is a very thick stem, and the thread should go around the tree very well. I will use a bit of sphagnum moss. So let us start. I have placed the orchid inside the mesh net gently, because I have two new roots which have grown, two very fresh new roots. Try not to damage the tip of the root, because these are new roots, and if the root tip is damaged, the root will stop growing, and it will be say back to square one for the orchid, because it will have to grow new roots again, because our whole purpose of our step 1 will be not be valid, because it will again have to grow new roots after you mount it on the tree. I will place the sphagnum moss inside the mesh net. Basically, you need to place the sphagnum moss around the roots, which will provide humidity to the roots, so that they grow more new roots which will attach to the tree on which you mount the orchid. Try not to bury the roots very deep inside the sphagnum moss, because the roots will need air circulation around them, so that it can soak up the humidity and help the orchid to grow new roots. The stump of the orchid should be free from the net and from the sphagnum moss, because it may cause stem rot, which will defy our whole purpose of mounting the orchid. I am done with filling the sphagnum moss inside the mesh net. You can see the roots are free. Both the roots are free from the sphagnum moss. Just the sphagnum moss needs to be around the root. The root should be free. I will use the thread. I have already cut it. So let us go and mount the orchid. For mounting the orchid, I have chosen a deodar tree, which is very common in my area. The surface, as you can see, is rough, and it will help the orchid to attach the root to the surface of the deodar tree. Let me tie it up with the thread that I have cut. The deodar tree is in my front yard, in an open area, so it will have good air circulation. And nowadays it is very hot in my area, and wind is blowing quite fast because of some cyclone that has taken shape in the Bay of Bengal. So right now it's quite windy. So as we all know, when the speed of wind is more, the rate of evaporation of water is high. So it will help my orchid during this time. The sphagnum moss was already wet. I had wet it and soaked in water, and then squeezed out the extra water. So I'm done with the mounting. Keep the roots free from the thread. Do not tie it very tight around the roots, because it may damage the roots, which will make the roots stop growing, and the orchid will be stressed not exactly stress, but it will have to gain more energy to produce new roots again, because it will defy our first step already. So you saw how easy it is to mount an orchid on a tree. The orchid can be a species, a hybrid, any orchid you can mount it on a tree. So our last step after mounting the orchid is to water it regularly whenever the medium is dry, so it will provide the necessary humidity. So hope this video was helpful for you. This video was a requested one, so thank you the viewer, and please share it among your friends. Thank you for watching.